Hello and welcome to This Podcast Takes Tokens. I'm Ryan, joined by my brother Derek.
Hello.
We're going to be talking about one of my favorite movies today. I don't know what it is yours, but before we get into that, question I asked you, our icebreaker question that I asked you from last week. What is your favorite non-conventional hero? And I can't remember who usually goes first on this. Is he?
No, you asked the question. I'll let you go first.
Okay. Hellboy, all the way. I mean, he's really kind of an anti-hero. You know, he's not bad.
Yeah,
but he's just a paranormal investigator, just trying to, he goes and tries to rid whatever evil, is at the place. But it just happens to be like, I don't think I've read most of the comics. It's not like most of the time, it's not like he really goes in there. Like he doesn't know what he's getting into. And then he sees whatever it is, whether it's some giant, not giant, but some frog monster or the Baba Yaba, or whatever, and takes care of it. But, really, if you look at him, it's not like he doesn't really have that heroic look. He has like a villainous look to him. And I guess that's the whole point of the character. He's trying to overcome this maybe stereotype that he has on him or whatever. But
because he's got the monster look or whatever, and that kind of consumes him.
Constantly grinding his horns down so that they're not sticking out everywhere. But But I love Hellboy. I've seen all the movies. I haven't seen the brand new one. But I've got
you're not missing much.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I still want to watch it though. But I've got all the graphic novels for it. I have read them. Well, I've read all the actual proper Hellboy ones. Not all the spinoffs, but I've got all the complete Funko Pop collection of Hellboy. Anyway, that's my favorite non-conventional hero. So,
I liked the Ron Perlman Hellboy movies. Those were so much fun. I was really disappointed that we didn't get a third one out of that.
Perlman is spectacular. He is Hellboy. Sure. He's so good. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was great. For me, I was thinking kind of along the same lines as you, very similarly. Constantine was going to be mine.
Yeah.
For a while, I was thinking, okay, Constantine, that's kind of a non-hero or an anti-hero or whatever you want to call it. But I was out this week with our family. We went and we did a little road trip. We just got back yesterday. We stopped off at a couple of different little vintage toy shops, game stores, stuff like that. And something struck my eye and I wanted to change my vote. It is Baymax from Big Hero 6.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite non-conventional hero. I mean, he was designed to be a personal healthcare companion, and he still learns to save the day through self-sacrifice. I mean, you can't get any more hero than that.
Yeah.
I feel like, or non-conventional hero than that. And, I really like Baymax. I think it's Big Hero 6 is one of my favorite, animated films, and it's just so much fun.
Yep.
It's superhero-y, but it's fun. I like it. I enjoy it. And, so I'm going to say Baymax with a little asterisk of Constantine there. Did they ever do a Hellboy Constantine crossover? I feel like those two worlds would collide perfectly.
I don't know if they have. I don't know about it, but that'd be incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I'd like to see that. Yeah. Dark Horse and Vertigo or DC or whatever get onto that. So that'd be a lot of fun, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because Constantine is DC, right? And
yeah. I mean, it's Vertigo / DC. I mean, DC owns both of those lines, but Hellboy's Dark Horse.
Dark Horse, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because they got Constantine in the was it the Dark Justice League or something like that?
Yeah. That's pretty rad. The Dark Justice League.
Yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah.
Well,
all right. Well, favorite non-conventional heroes. There we go. Let us know what yours is in the comments.
Yes,
we'd love to read it and talk about it. So, anyway, we're gonna hit the show here right after this. See you in a second.
Your local video store card.
a comic book in your back pocket,
games with no tutorials,
music you had to discover,
and drinking water straight from the hose.
These are the things us millennials remember fondly. We are the Jennings brothers.
Join us after the streetlights come on
as we race our bikes from the top of the hill
right down memory lane.
Exchange those quarters, because this podcast takes tokens.
Hey, you guys! We're talking Goonies today. Man, I couldn't start this episode without my best sloth impression.
No.
So, one of the most recognizable lines I think from a movie is
Sloth.
the "Hey, you guys!" Yeah, sloth.
Yeah.
Sloth. Yep.
That's fun.
Yeah, it is. So, June 7th, 1985 is when this movie came out. Budget of $19 million. It earned. Want to guess what it earned worldwide?
Oh, I did not look this up, so this will be fun. I'm going to say this was a Spielberg Donner joint. So they're pretty hot on some stuff. We're going worldwide box office total?
Worldwide box office total, yes.
I'm going to say between 75 and 85 mil.
Actually, it was 125 million worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did we not get a sequel out of this?
I don't know. I've wondered that. But I honestly think that this movie is, my mouth is getting ahead of my brain. I think that this movie is better without a sequel.
No, that's true.
It's one of those movies that I think if they did a sequel, if they did a sequel, it may be another one of those things that we want one and we get it and then we're like, ugh.
Well,
I don't know.
I hate to tell you, they're talking about a sequel right now.
I know they are, but they can't. It's got to be like their grandkids or something at this point. Like,
I was thinking about it whenever I was watching the movie. At the very end, the ship sails off.
Mm-hmm.
That ship sails off. Nobody sees where it goes, and it gets lost out in the ocean. And and let's say one of the characters is obsessed with finding this sunken treasure, and finally he stumbles across something that tells him he's on the right trail. Mm-hmm. But, like Doc Brown, he got investment from the wrong guys and they're on his tail. So they got to quickly find the treasure before the wrong guys do. Where it's kind of like National Treasure in a way, really.
Oh, sure.
Pitching it. But I was thinking about it. I was like, that's kind of I think that's what the sequel would be, is them chasing down this treasure that's been lost to the sea. Because I'm assuming effectively nobody got that, Nobody tracked that ship down.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I don't know. I mean, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. But I could see that, I guess. Yeah, you'd have to have, you still have to have some sort of like adventure to it, like with the traps and things, because I think that's one thing that just makes the movie so enjoyable is of the many things, but it's the traps and kind of the adventure, the Indiana Jones-ness of it, like we saw in the trailer. So I don't know, but a couple bits of trivia.
Sure.
Real quick. I want to run over. So that pirate ship was entirely real. The whole thing was. They built it for the movie.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say it was a real pirate ship.
Well, no. They built it. It was a real, like the full scale ship that they built for the movie.
Yeah.
So all of the ship scenes were filmed on that. And after the movie was finished, they asked if anybody wanted it. They couldn't find anybody that wanted it, so they just dismantled the whole thing.
Which wow.
Sucks, but I'd like to have it, but where am I going to put it? In my backyard? Like where's
you just gotta get some property and now that's your house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there was that. And then so when those boulders are falling from the ceiling and Data says, "Holy shit."
Yeah.
He intentionally doesn't say the curse word because the actor was it Ke Huy Quan? I think that's how you say.
Yes.
Kwan. he promised his mom that he would not cuss while filming this movie. So that's why he spelled that out in that scene. And then let's see here. The last thing I have is, so according to Sean Astin, I guess after the movie wrapped, they let him keep that map.
Oh, wow.
So he took it home. But then a couple years later, his mom was like cleaning stuff out. She found the map. She thought it was trash and she threw it away.
Oh, yes. I've heard that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just lost now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, can you imagine? Mom,
I know.
you threw away my treasure map.
Right? Like, I mean, how iconic is that?
Yeah.
You hear about
like, oh, that's a parenting fail. I'm sorry. I gotta just time out on the play. Hold on a second. You're a mom, and you mean to tell me you threw away something that you thought was like your child's artwork or something just because you thought it was trash? No.
Well, surely she has watched the Goonies.
Yeah.
And this is from when he was, when he brought the thing home. Hey, Mom, they let me keep this.
Yeah. That's clearly a parent that's not paying attention.
I have to say that probably is. Now, Sean Astin will probably defend his mom, and he should.
He should, for sure.
He should. But,
anyway, but as a parent, I would recognize that. I would remember it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. That's all the trivia I got. But I thought that stuff was interesting. But this movie though, absolutely stands the test of time.
It was fun.
Yeah.
There was some things that like, as a kid were a lot of fun. Like all the Rube Goldberg machines and stuff like that throughout it, all the data stuff that he's making. That's a lot of fun. It's imaginative. And as a kid, you're like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Like where Chunk wants in the yard, but he can't get in the yard until they trigger the thing that rolls a ball that sets off a firework that scares a chicken to lay an egg to swing the whole thing. But as an adult, I'm watching, I'm like, this is the most impractical thing ever. Like whenever Mouse came in, did he have to go and reset all that stuff? Yeah, that or just reach over and open the gate.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Well, well, that's what you're saying. Yeah. Because I was watching that. And after it did all that, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. But what is what time does it take to reset this thing up?
Absolutely.
And like you're saying, like it probably would have taken Mikey less time to walk down to the gate and open it up, It was fun though.
Yeah, you just gotta have a little fun with it. But yeah,
I think that kind of gives you. Well, it really sets the stage for all the traps later. And it kind of gives you an idea of what these kids are, and if the Goonies set that up, like how much they do have in common with One-Eyed Willie.
True. Yeah. So, do you have any like Rube Goldberg-esque machines set up in your living space growing up? Or anything you did?
Mousetrap was about it, right?
The game.
Yeah. I wasn't that inventive to be able to to do that. Yeah. But I wish I would have, because I mean, even when we're watching, remember Smalls in The Sandlot, he had that thing set up like his erector set, and like it did whatever, and then it shot the marble out, and of course it hit his mom in the face. But you're like, oh man, that's like, I wish I was that inventive as a kid. But I guess we grew up in a time where in '85, you were 4, so we grew up in a time where we had more access to like electronics and stuff, and I think we were more focused on that than we were don't have anything else to do, so let's just try to figure out how to piece something together and make this fun. But how's his mom and dad okay with that?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like, I mean, it's 80s kids. They're latchkey probably, not, parents aren't around. They're busy at work or doing whatever. But I had things like that. I had like a little string next to my bed at my mom's house, and I could pull up or down, and it would operate the light switch across the room. Series of pulleys with kite strings.
Are you serious?
Eye hooks. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man.
Yeah.
That shouldn't surprise me, but it does a little bit.
It's the only thing I ever really did like that. And then, like got into electronics, like taking apart different things and collecting motors and LED lights and wires and bundling it all together to make other things. But yeah, it's like I had that for a while. So I didn't have to get out of bed to turn off the lights. Because whenever you're a kid and you turn off the lights, that's whenever things reach out from underneath the bed and grab you.
Oh yeah.
You got to have a way to do that and still be in the bed.
Yeah.
That was my solution.
Yeah. Yeah, I never had anything like that.
So speaking of the parents, I can't make heads or tails of this. How was the mom's arm broken? Like, is it just like her arm was broken? We never question it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that it's at some point we missed it.
The only reason I can think that they would have that is to have what was her name, Rosita or Rosalita or whoever the Hispanic woman was that came in there. Or was it Rosita?
I think so.
To have that scene between her and Mouth, which was hilarious. Like he's just
where did he learn Spanish?
I know. Yeah.
That's what I got in my notes is, did he learn Spanish from the cartel? I mean, does he know what he's saying, or is it just like that's the only things that he knows how to say? But then later on he reads the map.
He knows how. I'm assuming he learned it in school. I'm assuming he takes like a Spanish class or something. That's the way I interpret it. And he 100% knew what he was doing with her. Like, because he even, what's he say? He says something after they leave, like implying that he knew exactly what he was doing.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't catch that, but yeah, I was wondering. I'm watching. I'm like, does he know, or did he learn it from like watching like cartel soap operas on telenovela or something like that?
Yeah. It had to have been in school. Questions. And the other thing that I think about, like that, not with that necessarily, but I think about them being in school. I'm like, I had a hard time pinpointing where in school these kids were. I'm like, well, they could be in middle school. But then I'm like, well, maybe they're like freshmen because they seem to know pretty well, like Andy and what was her name? The other, gosh, I can't remember her trailer. Yeah, Stef. That's it. They seem to know them very well. So I'm like, sure, they must be in the same school.
It could also be that like the older brother, like they got the connection there. So like maybe they're hanging out. Yeah. It's a small town too. So it's probably like, hey, you're going to the arcade with your friends, take your little brother with you and his friends or whatever. Yeah. That type of situation would be my assumption. So yeah, small town too. You kind of know. I mean, people and you got older siblings and everybody's got an older sibling. Were Mouth and Stef brother and sister?
No.
Or they just got at each other like that.
I think that they got at each other, but at the end, I know they're not brother and sister unless like Richard Donner just made a really creepy thing. But like at the end, where Stef says, your like your mouth's actually not that annoying when it's not running or something like that, and then he says, well, you're actually kind of pretty when your face isn't ruining it, or whatever.
But that could also be something that like a snotty little brother would say to his older sister.
Yeah,
too.
That's true. I don't know. I'd have to watch the ending again because all their parents come to them.
Yeah. That's what I was looking for. And I wanted to go back and watch it again. And I was like, yeah, well, whatever. I moved on to like other thoughts. Yeah. That didn't come. That was a thought that I had and it didn't come back around. But yeah, I was wondering that because like they kind of get at each other like brother and sister. Like they got that bicker. But then, there's moments where it's like, are they? And you know what? I'm going to say that they're not. And I'm only going to say that because have you seen? So at the very end, they're talking about what was going on. And Data mentions a giant squid or an octopus or something, right? That was a cut scene. Have you seen this scene?
No, I've not seen the scene.
So later on, after we're done here, I'll pull it up for you. But there was a scene that was cut. It's about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes long. After they get, they walk the plank and they end up in the water. They're kind of like trying to get back towards one another. And Stef and Data are walking, or Stef and Mouth are walking along. And Mouth is just like a couple feet behind her. And you see under the water an octopus tentacle or something rub against her leg. And she turns around and she tells him, stop and knock it off. It's not cute or whatever. And then it keeps doing it. And she keeps turning around to him and she's like, knock it off. It's not funny. I don't like it or whatever. And then finally she decks him. And he's like, what'd you do that for? And then suddenly like the squid comes up behind her and is like, grabs her with its tentacles and trying to eat her. It's got like a little parrot mouth thing going on,
Yeah.
And it's trying to eat her. And it's really weird. But then Data takes out like this cassette player, this little like cassette player, looked like a chunky Walkman, but it played music without the headphones. So he grabs that, he puts in some music, cranks it, and shoves it into this octopus's mouth. And then the octopus kind of like moonwalks away out of the scene. And then that was like it. It was really weird. So there was that. And then, so the way that she was reacting to that, now that we're talking about it, makes me think she is not his sister. Cause she thought he was coming on to her.
I got vibes throughout the whole movie. There was spots where it was like, there was almost like it's like they like each other, but they don't want each other to know that they like each other.
Yeah. They're still in that like pulling pigtails phase.
Yeah. And I kind of got that vibe. So I never thought that they were related. But, and then as far as what you're saying about the octopus with, or squid or whatever with Data, I just thought he was just like pulling his dad's leg or something. Like he was saying, oh, we saw a giant squid or whatever. Cause just embellishing, trying to make it sound like just a bigger adventure.
The craziest thing. Yeah. Same thing. Cause like all of them were like, the giant squid. Like they were all like in on it too. And I'm with you. I was like, why are they, they're okay. Their kids are just like spinning the story up a little bit more to make it a little outlandish. And then I heard about this deleted scene like a couple weeks ago and pulled it up, and sure enough, like there was a deleted scene with a squid, and that's the only mention of it throughout the whole movie. But because the way that was filmed and it was so frantic and there was a little bit of ad-libbing going on there, it got left in, and they were like, the kids are spinning a yarn or you're embellishing
just
the story,
how we interpreted it. Yeah.
And nobody will question it, and sure enough, nobody questioned it. So, but I thought that was interesting. It was a weird scene. It was a little out of place. I'm kind of glad they cut it, to be honest.
I'll have
a little bit of dialogue.
I'll have to watch it after the show and I'll look at it. But from the way you're describing it, just seems out of place with the rest of it. Like it seems a little too fantastical. Yes. I mean, this movie already has scenes that are kind of fantastical, like all the traps and stuff. You're like, how is,
Data being held up by like the little chomper teeth, the wind-up teeth?
Okay. Like, how's he fitting the punching glove in his coat the whole time? But a giant squid seems just over the edge a little bit.
That's jumping the shark.
Yeah. So what did you think? Let's backtrack to where they Chunk, Mouth, Data. I don't know if Data's gotten there yet. The boys plus Brandon are at their house. And Chunk accidentally knocks over the statue.
Yeah.
And
that's my mom's favorite part.
That's my mom's favorite part.
Which, like, way to throw your mom under the bus, dude.
Oh yeah. And I think
what's going on in the like behind, like what's going on the day before? Is she just walking around like picking up this statue and admiring it, or what? I don't. Where did that come from?
And Mouth says something like, it's almost an insult to their mom. It's like, well, I know, of course, that's her favorite part, or something like that.
That was totally an insult to their mom. Which
so
until
funny.
the very end, you don't see their mom and dad together. I thought, are they getting a divorce at one point? But so with the dad, like, they weren't getting a divorce though. Clearly,
nope.
No, it seems like they were having, like, he lost his job or something like that, and they were having a hard time keeping up with the house, and they were just going to lose the house. Was everybody in the neighborhood losing their house?
As far as I know, like the way I took it, so with their dad, I took it, the reason he's not there at the moment is maybe he's either trying to find work or he's trying to figure out some way to save the house.
I think that's it. Yeah. Because whenever they go by on the bikes, they wave at him. He's pulling the flag up or whatever.
Yeah.
So he must have his job.
But they talk about throughout the movie how none of them are going to be there because the country club is just going to end up buying up everybody's houses.
Mm-hmm.
And like and even the owner of the country club, like he's wanting to get rid of like the Boondocks or whatever he says. And they're wanting to like put something up there. But I'm like, how's he able just to like, how do these people have no choice but to sell their homes?
Yeah.
I don't know how he's
eminent domain or something. Maybe.
They
need to invest in a better plumber though, because clearly like just a little rattling on the pipes underneath just took down their whole water system.
So that scene was a little cartoonish.
Yeah.
But it was funny. Like I thought the whole thing
is definitely like
funny.
Firmly 80s funny.
Oh yeah. Like when the guy's he gets off the tennis court and he's trying to get a drink of water and he's holding on. It's like pulling him down. And he's like trying to,
but he's determined to get that drink of water.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong here. This is totally normal. I'm going to have a drink of water. This must happen all the time.
Yeah.
I think I interrupted you and you were talking about the mom and admiring the statue and all that.
There you go. Sorry. I thought I lost you there for a second. Like you froze up and then but,
nope, here.
Anyway. Yeah, okay. Did the opening ever throw you for a loop? Like when it first
was quiet.
Like
it was dead quiet. And I thought the same thing.
Am I on mute? Like is this on mute? Like what's going on? I'm turning up my volume.
Yeah. And then it starts up and I'm at 20 and I'm like, oh crap.
Whoa. Yeah. Because I ended up watching this. Actually, I watched this on I rented it off of YouTube, and I thought I had. There's another movie I thought I had around here, and I don't know where it's at. But I thought maybe there was a problem with YouTube. I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
But yeah, it threw me for a loop.
Got me too. I had the same thoughts. I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, this is really quiet. Like normally there's like sound at the beginning of these, at least for like, like the Warner Brothers logo has a little bit of sound, or they got like music or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there playing with the volume at the same thing. And then suddenly like the jail scene starts up and my volume's at like full blast. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to turn it back down. And
just a weird choice to do that. Like, you could even just have some ambient, like,
tones or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ominous. Something. Yeah. I guess like it seemed like all the music though throughout the movie there wasn't really much of a score. It was popular music. I mean, your girl makes an appearance as like
Cyndi Lauper. Yeah.
The theme song. Goonies are what was the theme song? Goonies are forever or something. I forget what it was.
Yeah.
Which was like 90% of the music was based off of that, I think, throughout the whole film. And then I think there might have been like one or two other songs that they used. But they were like generic 80s synth sons, it seemed like. But
which works though, because I mean, how timeless is that? Because I mean, you look like Stranger Things, like watching it now, and they use that synth sound, and it's just like, it just carries over so well. It doesn't ever seem dated, but it always gives you
an 80s
feel. I know this wasn't, and I know that wasn't the aesthetic they were trying to do at the time of the 80s, but it gives you that nostalgic feel, I think, just hearing that, like not like Devo or something, but just the synth, like, just takes me back to so many things. And
I don't know that there's another instrument that perfectly encapsulates a decade as the synth does for the 80s.
Sure.
Like, I mean, you can't tie the guitar to any one specific decade.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't another instrument that you could tie to any one specific decade and say, that sound, that instrument, the sound it makes is exclusively for that decade. Like, you don't hear synth anymore unless it's a callback to retro, unless it's and being done in like an 80s set scene. Like, it's like all the neon colors and, you know, patterns and everything of the 80s, all that stuff. It's a very, like, culturally, 80s are probably one of the most defined visually, audibly, you know, like even taste. Really, like you think about like the way things taste from the 80s, the food from the 80s, the look.
Even now, like when I go to like a grocery store, and you know they've got those freezers that are just, you know, up like they're like waist high, and you can just reach into them. Like sometimes I will stick my head down in there and smell it. And that the smell, I don't know if it was like the Freon or whatever, but it just reminds me of like the 80s. And I don't know.
That fresh pack smell.
Yeah.
Plastic fantastic of the 80s.
Yes. Yeah.
It's definitely like, I don't know that there's another decade that is so well defined. Like you could argue maybe the 70s. But I would say the 70s isn't quite as well defined. And then again, you could almost argue the 90s, but I would say again that the 90s almost isn't as well defined. Like I feel like the 80s is probably the most well defined. And then coming off of that, everything kind of decreases by degrees of 10 or 15 every decade.
Yeah, I would agree.
As far as how well they're defined. Like that 80s sound, man. Yeah.
It's great, and it just I just love it. So you were talking about that you know, we were talking about the like how the quiet opening or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you think about the jailhouse break? Like, I thought he's in county, right?
Yeah.
So it's probably like a misdemeanor or something like that. Like he's in there for, you know, a couple weeks or whatever
or they picked him up and they haven't identified him yet, maybe.
Yeah.
They're wanted. So maybe they just haven't identified him yet. Be my guess.
That could be, I guess. Yeah. I took it. Well, now you're saying that, just completely throws away what my thought was on it. But I was thinking he was just, you know, he got picked up for, I don't know,
drunk and disorderly or something.
You're drunk and disorderly, you're hit and run or something like that. And then they like go through all these hijinks to get him out of jail, out of county jail.
Yeah.
You're gonna break somebody out of county jail who's probably in there for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you're gonna risk it all. Bond him out. They print fake money.
Yeah.
Just
print some fake money, get him out.
They're not gonna notice it for a little bit. By the time by the time they realize it, you're gone. He's gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I think they picked him up and they haven't identified it. Because later on they pick up that newspaper and they're like, on the cover of the newspaper wanted.
Oh, sure.
So my theory was he'd been picked up. But it was a little ridiculous for sure. Like he knocks out the guard. Cool. Okay. Gets keys off the guard. Sure. But then how does he get the rest of the way out? Because it's not like it's a straight shot from the cell to the outside. There are multiple layers of lock and key between that front door and the cell door. I can't imagine he made it that far. Like, how many people did he have to pass in the hallway to look the other way or not be paying attention?
Yeah.
See you later. I thought he was, because I hadn't seen this movie in probably 5 years. I thought he was going to he grabbed the guard's at least jacket and threw that on and hat and kind of like pretended and walked out. They didn't even do that. Yeah, he just walks out. And then they can't get the door open, so he climbs into the top of the car, and then like they shoot a gun and set off like the gasoline that they had lit around the front of it, which none of the like I don't know. If you've ever seen like even just like a bonfire, like you could just hop over that pretty easily, I imagine. I don't think it's, but I guess it's a little alarming at first to see flames shoot up around you, I suppose. But I was with you. I'm like, this is a little, but here we are. This is Goonies.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I guess I can let it slide.
Which
Because like
it led-
one of my
Go ahead.
biggest complaints was the fight scene with the Fratellis on the pirate ship felt very Three Stooges to me.
Oh yeah, it
watching
did.
it.
I will
Yeah.
completely agree with that. I
Yeah.
will completely agree with that.
And I think that's
and-
one thing you just got to let go with this movie.
Yeah. I think what bothered me in that was when the mother, I can never remember her name, but
I think she called her
mom. Yeah. She,
or whatever.
she makes Andy jump off the boat.
Yeah.
And Brand runs over and dives in. He caught her off guard.
Just kind of
could have just
around her.
He could have just freaking tackled her, thrown her overboard with him, and then went and got Andy. Like, that's what I would have done. You know,
right?
That's one less person that your brother and your friends are going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm
with you. Like the whole the whole fight thing. I feel like they could have just a little bit of effort in coordinating that. They could have just made it where they distracted the Fratellis for a second and then were able to slip away. Like, for some reason, somebody decided that these kids needed to physically fight with these grown adults that could overpower them very easily. But just like, I mean, a lot of the shots from like overhead, and you can just see like, it looks like I don't know, like a practice football game where they don't want to quite tackle each other and they don't want to hurt each other, but they need to put on the show. Yeah. I feel like that they skipped out on having a composer so they could have a decent score throughout the movie. And they skipped out on any kind of like action fight coordinator, which would have gone a long ways on both of those counts. Yeah. But I felt like they thought it's a kid's movie. We don't need it. And they just kind of went with it.
And it does. I mean, really, like watching this as a kid.
Yeah. You don't think about that.
It's still fun. Like I'm watching it. And even now, like watching this movie, I'm like, gosh, I want to go on this adventure. Yeah. I don't care about like this, how good the fight scenes are or whatever. Like,
no. Yeah. Cause that was really the only one.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I want to go through these tunnels. I want to go down that ridiculous water slide. I want to find this ship and just hang out on it in this cove. It is that's what I mean when I say this movie still holds up, like stands the test of time. I feel like you can watch this but like I didn't get to watch this one with my daughter, and I don't think my son has watched it either. It was a crazy week, and I honestly just finished this movie up at lunch today.
Same.
but I mean, I think anybody at any age can, or at any point in time, will be able to watch this movie as a kid and have fun with it and be like, oh my gosh, I want to be there. I want to be with them doing this stuff, even if it's dangerous, because it just looks, kids want adventure. You want to have that, that couple hours where you have no parental supervision and you're just trying to go find some treasure, or whatever. It's like when you were talking about like, when we were talking about Robin Hood and you had talked about, how it was, there was like the adventure of like watching that movie and like going out in the woods and, having sword fights and stuff like that. I feel that way. I get that feeling with this movie. Like even now when I watch it, I'm like, surely somewhere around town, a tunnel that I can get into. I mean, we used to do it when I was a kid down the street. There's a park down the street and there was a sewer tunnel, and the grate was kind of bent, and we could get in the sewer tunnels, and we go explore those tunnels, and you're hoping, like, oh my gosh, we're gonna find, One-Eyed Willie's treasure, or whatever it was, like, but
It's just the longest, most never-ending pipe I've ever been down.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I never found an end to those.
Yeah,
but yeah, I get that. Yeah, there's an adventure to it. I gotta say, I remember this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there being a little bit going on in the beginning. They find the treasure map. I remember they go to the restaurant. They go downstairs, and then they're at the pirate ship. But this movie really, like, it's on rails. And I don't mean that in the sense that, like, it's fast paced. I just mean, like, the pace is consistent. They are constantly moving from one step to the next step to the next step to the next step. And it doesn't take a minute to slow down and explain to you why mom's arm is broken, why they're losing the house, what happened with the Fratellis, why are they wanted, why are they printing money, what's their history, why does Chunk love ice cream, all these things. They don't stop for 1 second to spoon feed you everything. They just trust that you're gonna keep up with the group and keep going, and the adventures are fun, and the puzzling is a little fun. I especially liked all the One-Eyed Willie stuff. Like, they got the little talisman that they bring with them, and they got the key. It ends up being the key that they got to put in there the right way and turn the whole thing. And then it sets off the whole, another Rube Goldberg thing. Cause they got that connection there. I thought for sure we were going to find out that One-Eyed Willie was like their great grandfather or something like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And yeah, it continues. It moves at a continuous pace, and I appreciate that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and as a kid, for sure, it was a lot of fun to watch. I will say I didn't watch this one a lot growing up. I watched it maybe once or twice, and then caught bits and pieces. I really caught like the ship scene a lot more on like cable, TBS, whatever they were running it on. And it wasn't until I had kids that we went back and rewatched it probably about 5 years ago for the first time, like all the way through again. And I was like, oh yeah, this is, I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did. And it was a lot of fun. And so coming back to watch it again, still, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I'll watch it again. It was a lot of fun. I can't wait to, at this point now, probably one day, hopefully my wife isn't listening to my watch it with my grandkids, but
yeah.
Because my kids, they're done. I asked them if they wanted to watch it with me, and they're both like, "No."
Yeah,
like, okay,
yeah,
that's fair. But yeah, have you ever heard of the Chunk Ned fan theory? The Chunk is Ned from Jurassic Park. You haven't heard this fan theory?
Oh, is his son or something? Or
that is him. Like he goes off and becomes Ned Landry or whatever from
that's
Jurassic
funny.
Park.
That's
and
funny.
it's just because they both wear like the exact same.
Yeah,
I think it's like almost the exact same Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah,
in like it's a fun little thing. I throw that out there to you. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I had not heard that one. No.
They call out, like he gets left behind, and they tell him to go call the cops. Out of that whole group, he's the last one I would trust to go call the cops and save me.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they kind of just throw him to the wolves.
Yeah,
like they forget about him. They forget about him when he's like when they're trying to get away. They lock him in the freezer. And one of the best lines, guys, I'm stuck in here with a stiff. Thing keeps falling on him.
And then later on, he gets put in the trunk with the same stiff.
Yes,
that kid's gonna have some issues growing up.
Oh my gosh! I mean, how can they forget him in the freezer? Of how many kids are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 6 plus him. 6 people forget that he's in the freezer, which I guess they're panicking and trying to get out of the room before the Fratellis show up.
Man,
don't know. But we wouldn't have just the absolute epic scene when they go to like put his hand in the blender and they're like, "You're going to tell us everything." And he's like, "Okay. And then he just starts telling them every
Back in third
wrong
grade.
he's ever done.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the Fratelli's names, but like the guy that's singing all the time. I love, like, by the end of it, he's just like smiling and laughing. And he's just patting them on the back.
I love
and
this kid.
Like, I love this kid.
Yeah.
And this one's really awful. And he talks about how he like pretended to throw up in the movie theater, and then everybody started throwing out, but it was so horrible. Chunk had a lot of really funny scenes.
Yeah.
I enjoyed pretty much every scene he was in. He was, yeah. He reminds me of, you remember, well, when we watched, it's an archetype, right? Because like when we watched Monster Squad, which their mom is the mom in Monster Squad.
Same mom.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Horace from he's kind of the bigger kid, the chunkier kid from Monster Squad. He's like, he doesn't want to go into the haunted house because, maybe we should just try to stay alive, and let's and Chunk here is, he doesn't want to like, oh no, we don't need to go in that diner. Like, let's just call it quits and let's go home.
Right.
And I like those characters that they're like almost reluctant heroes, like Chunk. I mean, Chunk obviously doesn't like do a whole lot, but he does bring Sloth. Like, if it wasn't for Chunk, Sloth wouldn't have came there, and he wouldn't have saved the day, at the end of the movie. So, yeah, I feel like
Chunk is more of a mouth than Mouth was a mouth, because Chunk was nonstop, just like yammering and always had something to say and was always talking. I mean, if he wasn't in the scene, then Mouth was the one running his mouth for sure. Yeah. But if he's in the scene, he seems to overpower Mouth in the personality department there, which was interesting. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like this group. It does. You're right. The archetypes. It does a really good job of representing like the childhood friend group. You kind of got like your leader character, the one that kind of makes all the plans and directs everybody where to go, and then you got kind of like your, I don't know, lovable loser goofball in like Chunk, and then you've got your like the wise guy, the smart aleck. Who's kind of hiding behind all the wisecracks and Mouth, and then your older brother that helps you out of trouble whenever you get into trouble. Like he's kind of like your muscle, if you will. Or
like a strong guy.
Yeah. And it's definitely like it kind of captures that. I feel like pretty well, like that whole like friend group archetype of the 80s, I should say, because it does. I don't know that it translates necessarily to today, but you definitely saw that a lot, especially in these movies. Like whenever you have like a friend group, it's like, like all these same kind of characters. And then maybe they'll kind of mix and mash some of the components of the characters where it works, but they're all kind of the same thing. What were we going to say? Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say one more thing. The one guy that we haven't talked about at all who's in this movie is Joe Pantaleone. He plays one of the Fratellis. Oh, yeah. Yep. I guess the younger brother of the Fratellis. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. The one with the toupee, but doesn't want to admit that he's got a toupee. And his brother's like trying to talk Sloth down. He's like, remember when we were going to get your teeth fixed? We ended up buying his toupee instead.
It's like, I don't wear a toupee. Yeah. I don't know if that's one of his first appearances or what, but I don't know. That's definitely like younger. The earliest thing. Yeah. Well, not that younger. I was looking at it. He was like 34 in that movie. Really? That came out.
He's still younger than we are.
That's true. Don't remind me. That seems to be the case a lot of times. I know. I'm no longer looking up to these characters so much as looking down on them. Yes, or back at them, or whatever you want to, however you want to phrase it.
When you see things, and it's like, Bob Saget was 32 when he started Full House. You're like, what? I mean, I don't know if that's accurate, but something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The one archetype that I it's one of the few things that like really kind of bothered me in this movie was that Andy was just pretty much reliant on Brand through most of the movie. It's like she didn't really have, she did a couple things to help. Like, yeah, she played the piano and which almost got him killed. Part of that's Data's fault. And it's not that I'm not saying that I don't like Andy. I liked the character of Andy, but I felt like it was the 80s. She was too much of a damsel. Like Steph held her own, I thought, but Andy Andy was just like, I liked her, but I wish they would have given her more of
more to do.
Yeah.
More than just being like a lovesick girl chasing a boy.
Oh yeah. I just want to kiss. Like all I want to do is kiss Brandon. That's all I want to do. And I don't know.
Nah,
I don't know. It bothered me a little bit. The hero. It was the 80s. Yeah.
I'm with you there. I feel you. Okay, Steph. So the opening scene, which we haven't discussed, does a really great job. Like once they light that fire and they take off in the car, it does a really great job of introducing all of the characters without them really having to say anything. Like you see their personalities playing out. But I got to know, Steph was down at the pier getting crabs. Why was she dunking her head in a trough and then coming up with her eyes closed, holding the crab and like feeling it like she was blind? I don't understand what they were. What are they trying to convey with this little like?
I don't know.
That's the only one where I was like, what is the point of this? Like, is she a dock worker? Are her parents dock workers? Is she just like a weird kid that goes and likes to play with crustaceans? I don't understand what's going on with
in tune with the shellfish or something. I don't know.
But yeah, like she's a female character, so they really didn't give her much of a backstory or explain much of her actions or anything like that because it wasn't central to the plot. Which I mean, you can really kind of take as one of two things: either A, she was female and they were ignoring her, or B, they were just moving the narrative along as fast as possible and not focusing on the central and not focusing on anything outside of the central characters. And I feel like it could be both. And we just end up with like all these questions of like, well, what is the point of this, or why is this person doing that, or what are their motivations, or whatever. And that all gets kind of left out. I mean, there are a lot of deleted scenes for this movie, which I'm surprised they haven't cut some of them back into like a future release to kind of fill in some of these gaps.
The Donner cut or something.
Right. He did it for Superman. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
I've never really noticed the difference between those two, but
I had to rewatch them again. It's been so long.
Watched them back. I never watched them back to back. I always watched them with quite a separation. So it's kind of like your brain fills in on those gaps type of thing. And I think the first one I watched was the Donner cut. The first time I watched it, maybe. I don't know. How old is the Donner cut? Well, that's for the Superman episode.
I don't remember. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Anyways. Well, I want to touch on two more things.
Sure.
Before we wrap. One real quick one. Coins in the wishing well. They were saying don't take the coins because that's somebody's wish. Do you know what happens to coins that go in a wishing well?
They get taken, don't they?
They get collected. That's right.
Yeah.
Like the famous one in, I think it's in Italy, that everybody throws their coins into. They drain it like once a week or maybe once a day or something like that. And then they go through and they scoop out all the coins and they're used to maintain the fountain. So coins go somewhere. Like they get taken at some point.
But this, like, so yes, I get what you're saying. I also think so. Follow my trail of thought here. So yes, but then I think like this is clearly a very, very old well. Yeah. Like, it's a cave underneath the country club or wherever this is at. Like, no, it's a park, I think, because the boys probably wouldn't have known about it if it was in the country club. And so there's that. So who's going down there collecting it? But on that at the same time, how does anybody not know what's down there if that well's been there for so long?
Yeah.
So I don't have an answer to any of that. I'm just,
Okay.
I'm just following. Yeah.
What was Mouth says he picked up that coin and he goes, I'll leave him behind, but I'm taking this one. This one's mine.
Yep.
Because it never came true or something like that. Did he say what the wish was?
I think it was that they would not have to like get split up and sell from what I gathered, like that they wouldn't have to end up selling their homes, and like they would be able to stay together and not have to get split up. And
I thought he said it was from a while ago or something. Maybe.
Well, I mean, this could have been brewing for a while,
True. Yeah.
I don't know. But that's what I gathered, just because of, everything that's
going on.
Like the central theme of all that is that this is like our last hurrah before
our last adventure.
We get separated. Yeah. So that's what I gathered from it.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. Well, I got one more thing. Do you got anything else to add?
I've got one more thing. You go ahead with yours, and then I'll.
All right.
I'll add.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe they'll be the same. We'll see.
Maybe.
So my one thing is, I got to talk for a minute about Ke Huy Quan. I hope I'm saying that right. And getting in this, so he got cast as Short Round in Temple of Doom after going with his brother to audition for it. He just went with his brother for moral support. He wasn't auditioning, and Spielberg saw him, or maybe it was George Lucas saw him. Somebody saw him, one of the producers or directors, and said, and liked the way he was coaching his brother to audition for the thing. And they auditioned him instead, and he wanted out, like hands over. And so his acting career is born. And he gets these parts. He does some acting, but it fizzles out around the mid-90s, and he's just not getting any more parts. So he takes a step back, goes back to school, and starts a degree program at University of Southern California, enrolling in a film studies program. Starts working behind the scenes in film, like doing some editing and working more importantly, as a stunt coordinator and assistant director. And he actually ended up doing stunt coordination for like X-Men, the first X-Men movie back in the 2000s. Yeah, that scene with Mystique and Wolverine, that fight scene between them two, he coordinated that.
Okay.
He's uncredited because he was there with the actual stunt coordinator, like whoever they hired as a stunt coordinator. He was working under that guy. And so he's uncredited, but he coordinated that whole scene, and they've kind of retroactively given him credit for that. He's uncredited or whatever. And he also did stunt coordination on The One with Jet Li.
Jet Li, I remember that.
Yeah. So he did some stunt coordination on there as well. I think the same way, like he was working with the other guy. And so he managed to carve out this little career working behind the scenes, editor, assistant director, stunt coordinator, consulting and the like. And, but felt like something was missing. And so one day he watches Crazy Rich Asians when it comes out, and it just sparks this desire that he's always had to get back into acting. He didn't realize that he had, but he latched on to, that's what I'm missing. That's the one thing that I really want to do. And so he starts talking with his wife about it, and he spends like a year kind of just like mulling it over and going back and forth with her. And then he starts talking with his close friend and entertainment lawyer, Jeff Cohen, who plays Chunk, grows up to become an entertainment lawyer. They're best friends still to this day. And him and his wife encourage him to follow this passion. And so he gets an agent again, gets out there, and gets a part in was it Everything Everywhere
Everything all at once.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Thank you. and from there just like takes off. I've seen him in Finding Ohana, Loki, this Love Hurts movie that he did just recently. I haven't got to see it, but that looked really good. Saw him in Electric State this last weekend. We watched that. That was fun. But yeah, like he's just like popping up. And everywhere he pops up, I'm like, man, he's just got like this energy, this infectious energy that just like he brings to the part. And I really enjoy it. And I want to see him in more things. And I enjoy watching him and stuff. And he actually won a Golden Globe, a Screen Actors Guild Award, and an Academy Award for that Everything Everywhere All at Once part.
Yeah.
That he did,
Yeah.
which is just like incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really enjoyed watching him kind of like come back into acting. I'm a little, I don't know, not annoyed, but I mean, you know, everybody's got to take their path. They got to have the path that leads them back to wherever they need to go. And maybe we wouldn't end up with this same acting talent. He says that like going through all of that really taught him to appreciate film as a whole, making a movie as a whole, because he got to see it from both sides of the camera. And so maybe without that, he wouldn't have seen that. But I really, it bugs me that Hollywood turned their back on this guy as far as being an actor. And it took him having to go all the way down and claw his way all the way back up, which maybe isn't the right way to say it, because he worked really hard. He got, he got where he is through that hard work. But I've really enjoyed seeing him come back the last couple of years, and I look forward to watching him in more stuff in the future. And I just wanted to highlight that a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I haven't watched everything everywhere all at once. I need to watch it. Yeah. Yeah. So I am curious to watch that. But yeah. I didn't realize he'd went through all that. I thought he'd just been doing little bit parts here and there or whatever, but
his last thing was in like 97 until the Everything Always thing came around. He had about 20-year break there. Okay.
Interesting. Well, so my final thing that I was going to say, and I mean this with the most respect, like for people with disabilities or whatever, but like what was the deal with Sloth? Like, why did they decide to make this character be mentally disabled, like, and, you know, have all these physical ailments or physical deformities, and it's not something, admittedly, I thought about looking that up, and then when halfway through us recording this right now, I'm like, oh, I forgot to look that up to see what the deal was with it. But like, it seems like it's iconic. It's what's that?
It seems like a choice.
It does. It is so iconic. Sloth is like one of the most iconic characters in like pop culture. But it seems almost like if you would have this, look at this script on paper and you're reading it, it would seem so out of place, I would think. Like, what?
Did they write him as this character? Or through the process, did they come up with this character?
Yeah. And I don't know what the answer is to that, but I don't know. I just wanted to touch on that. Like,
Ma says at one point, I'm sorry, like she's singing like the baby
Rockabye Baby. Yeah.
And he kind of starts freaking out at like drops the baby or baby falls or whatever. And she's like, I'm sorry, I dropped you once or twice or 3 times or whatever.
Yeah.
And she talks about how like she kept dropping him. So he got dropped on his head a few times and we ended up with this, because I don't think I'm not an expert, but I'm not sure that's how this works.
Yeah. I'm not sure. It just seems like an interesting choice to me, but we wouldn't have the character. We wouldn't have the, hey, you guys, we wouldn't have all that great character. Clearly, like, he is the hero, right? He saves the kids.
Superman.
And Sloth. It's just great. But then the other thing that leads me to is, so at the end, Chunk comes up to Sloth and he says, you're going to come live with me now. Did he consult his parents about this? Like,
My wife said the same thing. She goes,
Yeah.
"He did not consult his parents about this choice.
No,
Kids
no,
over
no,
here
no,
just
no.
making choices for the whole family."
And then what do you do as a parent? Like, you're looking at this guy that's like, clearly he's going to be heartbroken if you're like, well, you're not going to come live with us.
You're going to be a ward to the state now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did Mom Fratelli name him Sloth, or is that like a nickname? Like, does he have I gotta assume he's got like a legitimate name, because the other ones are
It's
like
gotta be
Jake and Francis.
Yeah, there's gotta be some legitimate name. But like, where did he get like this superhuman strength from? Like, he pulls these shackles off of the wall and the floor, and he can lift that giant boulder that falls over the mouth of the cave when they're trying to get out. Lifts the thing up. That thing's got to weigh at least a ton.
Well,
he's holding it up with his back.
He was a defensive lineman for what, Chicago Cubs or somebody in the NFL.
The guy that played him was?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Houston Oilers. Sorry. Houston Oilers.
Okay.
He was a defensive lineman for the Houston Oilers. So
they need to change their name back to the Oilers from the Titans, but that's a different conversation. Yeah. I don't know. He's just a very interesting character. And I didn't really have anywhere else I was going with that, but I just wanted to throw that out there, that it was, because I cannot see that. And I don't see that in any other movie. It's just so unique to this movie.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
I don't know how you would write the character and maintain the same impact without having to write him with these disabilities. Yeah. Which I'm not saying, he can't be a hero with them. Just that, like, you couldn't have a straight character swing in and say, "Hey, you guys," the same way. And what it was. You can't have this played straight character rip chains off the wall and talk about be effectively, I don't want to say mute, but having a bit of a language barrier, limited vocabulary, if you will, like that, without it being more of a problem. It's definitely a line that got walked, and it wouldn't fly today, but at the time, it was definitely walking the line, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a point where, and this movie doesn't cross the line, but there's a point where it's like, wow, this is like overtly offensive, But this, I think it's just the way they built the character. He's lovable from once you know what he is or who he is.
Take the mystery away.
He's a lovable character, and it's like one of the funniest scenes, I think, is when Chunk throws the baby Ruth at him and it hits him in the face. and then he starts screaming, and Chunk's like, he starts screaming too. And then he's like, that's when he starts pulling the shackles out of the wall, and Chunk's just like, oh my God, he's going to kill me. He's like thinking, I'm assuming that's what he's thinking. And then he just reaches down and he grabs the baby Ruth. And it's just this the whole scene goes from just this terror, this intense, this action intense. And then you see the scene, just the shot of just the hand, like going down and picking up the baby Ruth. Tender. Yeah. And then he picks it up and he gives part of it to Chunk, and it's a friendship from that point on.
Born. That's right.
Yeah.
Going to come live with me now.
Yes. I don't care what mom and dad says.
Which she shows up with a pizza. She's ready for this kid. Like, she does this kid pretty well.
What a mother. What a mother. Yeah.
She wouldn't have thrown away his treasure map.
No, she wouldn't have. No, maybe she would. Maybe she would bring Sloth in if
absolutely. That's his best friend.
She's doing all that. Yeah.
Well, that wraps it for Goonies for me.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right.
It's fun.
It was fun. I enjoyed that one a lot. We did have a couple of comments come in.
Yeah, we did. Let me get to them.
I think we could address those if
Yeah.
you want to. Address those if
Yeah.
you want to.
Let's see here. So I'm seeing maybe the second one. So that we had one from Z-Man 82, and it was on on our Terminator 2 Judgment Day episode. I'm wondering if there's a second comment on this. There are two. Okay. Yeah. Do you have the first one brought up? I cannot see the first one. Okay, read the first one, and I can read the second one.
All right. So he says, Z-Man 82 says, you guys are way off. Okay. You know, the T-1000 is the bad guy because he kills a cop as soon as he gets into the past. I don't think we were arguing that T-1000 wasn't the bad guy. I think what we were saying was in the trailer, you're instantly told that the T-800 is the good guy.
Yeah.
And the T-1000 is the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if we would have gone into the theater without having seen the trailer, whenever the T-800 shows up, we wouldn't have known if he was there as a good guy or a bad guy. Now, yeah, we would have obviously known the T-1000 because, he takes out the cop. Although he doesn't. Like, we don't see him kill the police officer in that scene. I think we talked about this in the movie or in our discussion on it. We don't see him actually kill the cop. We just see the cop get knocked out. We don't actually see him get sliced up. There's no blood, nothing like that. Now, looking back on it, we can assume.
Honestly,
that he died. Yeah, for sure. But in the moment, for all we know, he just got knocked out. And this guy, I don't think we know that he's a shapeshifter at this point. Like, we don't see like the chameleon effect or whatever. And he's naked and he just knocks out the cop, and then he's dressed like a cop. So having seen it for the first time, you could assume that he's a time traveler and could have been just like a normal guy. Maybe he's got a bit of an attitude problem because he never smiles. And, maybe he's a little, what is it? A loose cannon, if you will, and knocks out the cop in a rather aggressive manner and steals his clothes. But I would argue that we don't see the T-1000 murder the cop in that opening scene with him.
Not like we do with
that he gets knocked out
with John's foster parents.
Yes,
like
then we definitely know.
Oh yeah, like the fist turning into a blade and going through this foster dad's head.
And I think that might be the first time we see the T-1000 take on any other shapes or anything else. No. Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Okay. Because whenever the T-800 shoots him, that's when we first see that effect.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What is it? The liquid metal effect, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would argue respectfully that the T-1000 and T-800's motives aren't exposed until that scene with John whenever they meet. And we don't know about the liquid metal until that scene.
And they've, you've built up from the first Terminator movie that the T-800 is what's after. Was after Sarah. Yeah. So who's to say in this one that he's not after John when you're first watching it?
That's right. Yeah. And I think whenever Kyle Reese comes through in the first one, he knocks somebody out and steals their clothes, doesn't he?
I don't remember. I'd have to rewatch it. I don't remember
either. It's been that's on our lists, but we wanted to do the second one first because the second one is the better one, arguably.
Oh yeah.
Definitively the better one.
Yes. Yeah.
So
was there anything else to the comment though?
That was it. And then there was
it. Okay.
I think he commented again or commented on top of his comment, one of the two.
He said also the T-800s are not all the same. You see different models in the first movie. It's like 100 different skins for the T-800s. So, okay. Like we just said,
I don't remember.
I don't remember the first one. The one that I've seen the original Terminator.
Yeah.
But the one that I've watched far and above more than any of the other Terminator movies is T2, because I think that That's not just a great Terminator movie. That's a great, like, one of the greatest action movies ever
of all time.
It's so good.
I would argue that more people watched Terminator 1 after watching Terminator 2 than watched Terminator 1 before watching Terminator 2.
Probably. Yeah. Now, that's not to say, like, you know, Z-Man, like, in all 100,000% seriousness, like, that's awesome that you know Terminator lore that much. Because I love, like, the Terminator, just the idea of Terminator and, you know, the whole
unstoppable killing machine,
unstoppable thing. And, like, I just think it's a very cool concept. And, like, I haven't watched the whole thing, but, like, the Netflix did an anime series of it, and I've watched part of it, and it's pretty cool. But
where's that?
Yeah, so that is actually in Japan, but it's kind of the same story. You have somebody coming from the future, and she's coming to protect the kids of this guy that's created. He didn't create Skynet. He created a different thing to try to stop Skynet.
Huh.
And it's kind of convoluted, like a lot of, you know, there's a lot of exposition like there are in most animes. Yeah. But the action is really good in it. Yeah. Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. Well, thanks for the comments, OZ, man. Like, we appreciate them. Keep them coming. We love to hear what your opinions are and what you, if you know, we don't always get everything right. We probably rarely do. And
you don't
let
have
us
to
know.
agree with us either. Obviously, we are okay
That's
with
fine.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Healthy
We appreciate the comments.
Discord.
Yes, absolutely. Well, do you have a icebreaker question for us for next week?
Oh yeah, I got one. I got your icebreaker right here.
Yeah.
All right. So we were talking earlier today about restoring old games. You know, I was struggling with a label issue. Somebody put a sticker on a label. It's very annoying as a collector. Let me know what you
Cardinal
think.
sin.
Cardinal sin, absolutely. I don't care I don't care that it's in if you got it at what is it? E-game? Oh, what's the name of that store?
EB Games.
EB Games? EB Games.
EB Games, yeah.
Whatever.
Which then was bought out by GameStop, but yeah.
Yeah.
Electronics Boutique.
There it is. Yeah. I don't care if it's that or a Toys R Us sticker. If it's on the label, I'm annoyed. And I don't want it on my thing. I don't want it on my game. I don't want your name on my game. Don't write your name in permanent marker on the game. I don't like any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody argues differently. Some people say, oh, it tells a story. I like to know there's a story behind it. I don't. I want a nice, clean game.
Sure.
So
that's
not,
fine. Yeah.
I'm going to look for that. But anyways, I digress. I get off topic.
Yeah.
So what's your stance on originality in collecting and restoring old games? In other words, what is okay to replace or fix, if you will, and still consider the game to be original? And what can you replace and what can't you replace? Some people argue that only the ROM matters. As long as you have the original ROM, everything else is irrelevant. You got the original ROM, it works in the game. Replacing anything else, as long as it's like OEM stock or, maybe even a replica sticker, doesn't have to be the original screws, whatever. It works. That's all that matters. While other people argue that every screw that came with the game needs to stay with the game. The label needs to stay with the game. If there's a sticker put on the game, that stays with the game. It all tells a story. It needs to remain 100% authentic to its own history. So my question to you is, what is your stance on originality in restoring these classic old games?
Can it be, is it limited to games, or can also include game systems? Because
Sure.
I've done game system restoration. So anyway, okay,
yeah,
that's cool. I want to talk about it right now, but now I have to wait a week, and I'm mad.
We'll talk a little bit about that.
I could seriously just do an entire episode of this topic, but
we'll try not to.
We'll try to keep it at least under 45 minutes. So
that's right. Well, everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks for hanging out with our new friends, Young Thanos, Asthmatic Sammy, and 80s hip-hop star, and a lawyer. We appreciate you. Be kind, rewind. Share this podcast takes tokens with all your friends, your family, your enemies. That guy you met in Pilates class. Let them know that we care, that you care about this classic stuff, and we want to talk about it, and you want to hear about it. Until next week, my friends, sharing is caring. We'll see y'all around.
See you.
This podcast takes tokens is a Clay Street production.